Okie dokie. Let's wait for this all to get set up here. Once again, thank you everybody for joining. In this video, we are working on top of the COVID-19 tracker that we started in the last video. So if you're kind of lost or you want to follow along, make sure to check out part 1 where we set up this object, this COVID states object, and we write a little bit of code to reach out to this COVID-19 tracker API and do a call out there to get some information, basically to get this information. So in this video, what we are going to be doing is making some updates to our code because if you remember from the previous video, if we try to run our code again, what it does is it creates more records. It doesn't update our existing records. And these values are from the day that we ran it, which is last week sometime. I don't remember the exact date. And if we look inside of Postman, which is our API accessing tool, we can see that for some of the records, or pretty much all of the records, there are going to be updates. So for example, AK, there are 335 cases confirmed, and we can see that in Salesforce we have 300 cases. So there is a time difference in between when we last ran our code to what we have inside of Salesforce. So some of you may be thinking, well, why don't we just run our code again and get the freshest data and be happy there? Well, that's not practical for somebody to go into the developer console, delete all the records, and then come back in and run this code. So in this in this video, we're going to be updating this code to update our records and to make sure that, what else are we going to do? Let's probably put some of this into a report. Let's go on the admin side of things and then clean up this home page as well so we can see our information pretty easily. Okay, so I don't want to run our code just yet because it is currently out of sync, and I want it to stay that way. So I want our code to run. When our code runs, I want it to update so that we know that there's something new that's going on. So how do we do this? It's kind of ambiguous when we look at this data in here. How are we going to match it up to what we currently have inside of Salesforce? So normally you do that by some sort of key. So that's a unique value across all of the records that you have here. In this case, in our case, the states are actually a key that we can use because there's only, 50, I think there's 51. We have some territories in here. I think we have DC. So every one of these items in this list is going to be unique. So that works out really well as a key. And many other instances, when you're integrating with systems or you want to do updates for a system, you will need to have some sort of matching value, or it is best practice to have some sort of matching value and to not search through all of the different items for the values that you're looking for. So just to recap, this is iterating over all of the objects that we have in here, and it's creating them. At least right now, we're doing an upsert. We're going to do some code changes in here so that we don't just always insert. We're actually searching through our different list of states so that we can look for them. So let's get started with that. The first thing we need to do is get all of our states. So we have an existing list here of the ones that are getting updated. Let's actually create another list just so it's completely clear. We're going to call this COVID states again. And we're going to call this, existing states. Why not? And let's just call that a new list. And I'm going to start showing you guys some really cool, shorthand ways of creating lists. I maybe should have done it there, but anyways. Next thing that we're going to do is select all of our values that we have in here. So we're going to do select the IDs. We will also take the names because that's what is matching. COVID states. And we don't need to do any filtering because we want everything that's in this list. So what we're going to do is update any of the records that we do find, and if we don't find a record, we are going to insert it. So now that we have all of our existing states, what's really simple to do in this situation is to, as we are going through our results, which has our states in there, and let me decomment this and so there's no updates in the end of this and run it. We're going to see that all of our states are going to be in here. Execute this and let's read the debug logs. All of our states are going to be in here, but right now we're just creating them. So it's really easy to do something like this where we are looping over all of our existing states. We're going to call this EX state for short. And then if EX state dot name, we're looking at the name, equals the state value that we have here. Let's just copy this because we know it's already casted to be a string value. We're going to do a comparison. Then we need to set our temp state to our existing state, and that should actually work. For this type of integration, that works out pretty easily since it's not like millions of records or thousands of records. Let's see what we got going on here. Temp state does not exist. When do we create temp state? Up there. Let's move this up one. There we go. It's really easy to do this type of searching because we know that our records are limited. We know that there's only going to be 51, but it's not always best practice to do that. And I think after I run this, we'll double check that this is actually working. After I run this, we will see that we'll do some other ways of sorting these records to make it a little bit faster in cases where you have gigantic numbers of records or you need to do some other types of searches. So now, since we have the value for our upsert, we're setting our existing state value to an upsert, or we'll have the ID. So when we call our upsert and set that temp variable, the ID will be in there. So when we do that, in the end, we will be updating records. So let's actually run this and cross our fingers that this works. So that ran, and what we're expecting to see when I refresh the data here, let me zoom in a little bit, why not? When I refresh the data, we are expecting to see some updates, and it looks like we got them. Let's scroll down to make sure that we don't have extra values in here. We're stopping at 56, so hey, that looked like it worked easy peasy. We are cycling through or going over, we're searching for, let me start doing some comments, search for existing state in Salesforce for name match. So if the name matches, we are setting our temporary state, or we're basically just updating all of the values for this and then pumping it out, which worked out pretty easily for low amounts of records. This is something you can do, and it's safe to do, especially when you're dealing with states or something like that. Before we go into changing this around to be a little bit more efficient with a map, let's mess with our home page a little bit. Let's build some reports because we gotta always think about the end results of all of this. So just because we're developing this, somebody's going to eventually build a report off of this or do some type of data management, and it's nice to have it on, let's say, like our homepage or something like that. So let's do COVID states. We're gonna have a report here, and let's just throw everything in here. want to know, let's throw everything and then we'll sort them after the fact. No, we don't care about these. Last modified date might be nice to have. Total test count. And then let's throw our preview on as well, because why not? And then let's move these around. Let's do this up here. Positives, negatives currently. Needs to be there. Deaths, hospitalized, recovery. Sure, we'll do that. And let's save and run this report. Let's just call this COVID states for right now. Put this in the public folder. And then let's get these values on a dashboard or something like that. I think we're going to need to group. How should we group this? Let's know what's important. I want to know who's like in that upper 100,000 range, I guess. So let's maybe do some positive grouping. If you have any ideas, please let me know how we should do some grouping in here. Oh, we'll have to do a bucket as well. Because what I'm trying to get at in the end is to, add a chart to this, do some different kinds of grouping, so it's just not a tabular response. Let's go ahead and bucket less than or equal to 10,000. And I'm gonna say not that much, but that's like downplaying it. Not as much. And then we're gonna call this one a lot, just to be a little silly. Case grouping. Let's see if we can. Where'd our bucket go? Positive side. Did we not bucket them? Now we might have to move on from this because I didn't think it through as much as I wanted to. Probably want to see the states and some other values related to it. But I haven't worked with bucketing. Oh, it didn't save. In forever. Oh, you know what I did? Let's try that one more time. Cases. I'm not seeing my buckets. I won't worry about it. I really just want to see my tabular report and then oh, here they are. Can I group by my new buckets? Oh, there it is. I haven't done reporting in so long. Here we go. I don't need this one. Cool. Now we can see who's in the lot and who's in the little categories. We can add a chart off of this. Let's do, I don't know. Bar chart works out pretty good. Do a funnel? It doesn't look that well. Record count. Because if we group by the state, I think it'll give us what we want. But there's not like individualized records for each of our states. So I may just be, you can spend all day trying to figure out the best way to do this grouping. Let's do my name. Because then on our reports, that'll allow us to look at something like this total tests. So now you can see, who's got the highest ones. I don't know if we can sort this report, but whatever. We will save this and we'll kind of move on. I'm spending too long on this. I just thought it would be really nice to kind of show something, somebody who's definitely more proficient than me in report building and have an actual idea of what they want to see will create something behind this. We may need to also build a dashboard to kind of remove all the rest of these in the home page here. Can't hit my home page. So let's go over to the setup. Oh, you're right. We could probably do a different state for a color for each state. That'd be pretty cool. Where's our COVID tracker? And I think we've set it up so that there it is. Let's take away some of this stuff. We can add in, don't know if we can add in specific reports. We've got report charts, so I think that's what we're going to throw in, at least for right now. Take away all this stuff, and eventually I will think of a lot more actual things that would be good to be tracking on here. Here's our COVID states. Let's save that, activate it, close there. So now at least we have a big, nice, fancy dash. It's on our home page, but we could also do a ton more with this type of report and reporting that we'd have on here that people would actually want to see. On my end, I guess let me ask a question to myself. What is the most important things that I want to see on these reports? I kind of just want to know who's the highest case at, who's the leader of the highest cases at any given time. I can kind of see those on the list views, but I can do a better job of displaying that, displaying the videos or displaying the different states values. I'll digress. I'll think of some a better structure for the actual reports. Let's go ahead and rework some of this so that it can be a little bit more efficient in the searching of the individual records. So the problem with the current searching that we have is that when we come through here, we're going to search for every record for the matching name. So even if we've already looked at one of the results, so it starts at Arkansas or AK or any of the different results, even if that's, let's say, the last item inside of our list of COVID states, it's going to take longer for us to search for. We're going to search through everything. There's no way, or at least we haven't set up a current way to set those values very easily and to look for those values really easily. So the way to do that is to put items in a map, which is a key value pair, and it's what our actual it's the structure that our data is also sent through with the get message, that the call out that we're doing. So we're going to do something very similar so we don't have to search through all the different values inside of our lists, and we can get them very fast. And to illustrate that, let's actually do some system calls just to look at how the different searching methods, what they look like. So let's do a system.debug, and we will call this does state result state match. And I'm going to put in our result state value, this value. And then I'm going to say result. Does the result state value match this new value that we're, or the value inside of our actual list that we're searching? So I'm going to say, let's do a bunch of equal signs, something I normally do. Ex state name. And this should print out something like, does AK match EX or EY or something like that. Another thing that we can, well, let's do this one because we're going pretty deep into loops. So let's run this, check out the debug logs, see what they kind of look like. So for AK, we see does a result state match here. This one's actually true because it's the first one that we have in the list, but we are currently running over all of the other ones. So this is our initial result value, and this is all of the records that we are looking for. The same thing for AL, and it's going to go on to literally all of the different values that we have in our results, all of our different states. So VT, we're looking through everything. So one way to solve or to help out with this speed issue is if we break out of our loop after we find the value that we're looking for. So this is going to help on the top side of things. So the faster we find it, the earlier we break out of our loop. So let's save this, execute, and take a look at how many we have at the end here. Let's go to the debug logs. So we can see for AK, we only looped through it one time and we found our record. For AL, we looped through it twice, and then so on and so forth. But when we get to all the way at the end, or some of the later values, you're going to start seeing that we're going to have to go through literally everything to update this. Is there no? Are we looping here? What is this? We are, something's up. Something's up. Oh no, we're good. Why does it look like we're looping through a bunch of values here for BI? Looks like we're stuck in a loop for this one. We're gonna have to double check that. Whatever that is. Yeah, I've got a message here. We have got a question. Do all lists loop over and over like that in the debug log? All loops do not list over and over in the debug logs. It's only when we are, it's only if we are telling it to loop over. So the reason that it's looping over multiple times is because in our results, and I'll print out our results again as well. In our results, we are asking, we have a list of states that we're going through. So it's gonna loop over at least 50 times to look for the newest state that we have in here, or the new state that we want to check. If we don't have that new state, then it's gonna create it. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if it did not. But we have a list of 50 states in this results. We're going to loop over this 50 times to make sure that we check every object or every state in this results list. Since we're checking every state in this result list, we have another for loop in here, which is saying, hey, we want to look for if there's an existing state or not. If there is an existing state, then take that existing state and start updating the values on it. One thing I saw in there that was a little weird was that line 21 for VI. We have to, I guess that's like Virginia or something like that. We're gonna have to double check with that. But as you saw when we were running that, and I'll run it one more time just so we can look at that again. in the debug logs any minute now. So we're doing better on the top end of things. So we're finding AKs very quick, and we're not looping through other objects that we don't care about. But at the end of the list, when we're going through all the rest of them, we are not finding everything that we need, or it's taking longer to find some of the items that aren't sorted in a specific way. One other thing that could help is to order by the name, ascending, because we know this list is coming in ascending values or in an ascending order, most likely. So if we run this again, it's going to be a little bit faster, but still we're going to run into the same issue where at the end, we are still going to be looping over all 51 states to find the last value in here. So finally, let me get to the overall point and of what I'm trying to make here is to say to use maps. So maps are key value pairs. What we're going to do is the heavy lifting at the beginning of this process so that when we're searching through our different states, and let's call this state results. So to make it more clear, and then let's call this state state object. Oh, that's totally opposite. Let's make sure you use correct camel casing. Let's call this state. I did it again. Just to make it a little bit more clear, and then this is our final state that we have in here. Okay, so let's talk about maps. Maps are key value pairs. So we have a map, and let's call the first our key, or let's define whatever our key is, and we'll have that be a string, which is just the text value. And then let's get our value, and in this case that our value is actually going to be an entire object. So if I say Arkansas or AK as my state value, I want to get out the object or the record that is associated to Arkansas. So what I'm going to do is put in my value, so key value, as the COVID state object, and we will call this a state by, we'll say name map, just so it's a little bit easier for us to tell later on to say what is all of this. How is this map organized? Well, we know that these are states. There's states in there, and they're organized by their name. So it's a little bit easier. You can always check, look at the object creation to know how it's set up. And then let's just finish with the creation of this object string of COVID states. And something, so now we have our map created, and we need to populate it. So instead of doing this for loop in here, where we're going to be searching through our different existing states, what we're going to do is put all of those state key value pairs into this map so that we can easily access it. So for a map, you can tell it, hey, I'm looking for this value, and it will spit out the correct value that you're looking for, rather than loops where you have to literally roll over each of them to, is it Kansas? Is Arkansas? I don't know which state is what. It's Kansas, whatever. I'm gonna say Florida because I know that's FL. I don't know half the other states out there. Except for California, I know that one, and New York. Okay, there's some simple ones. Anyways, let's go ahead and loop over these. Fix the formatting here, and we are going to not break anymore and not check this anymore. What we're going to do is take our map and start to populate the values. So we're going to put the values in, and what we're putting in is from our existing state map. So we're going to call this EX states, and this can go away. as well. So we're going to put the name in, and we're going to put the entire value, the object, inside of here. I'm going to have to watch that about the different states. AK is just the first one on there. I'm looking it up just to make sure. There's no way AK is Alaska. Why would anybody do that? Yeah, okay, I got Kansas right. Anyways, so AK, we definitely know that it's Alaska now because I just looked it up just to make sure. So what is AL? Alabama? Ugh, that's so backwards. Who designed these states? Anyways, okay, so now that we have our map populated, we can do things like getting values out of it. So if we ask our map for Alaska like this, it'll spit it out. And there's no searching, there's no looping over 50 values. It knows exactly where it is because we did the hard work for it. So let's actually print this out and see what it looks like. And then let's not do our update just because we're not going to have anything to update at this time. And then let's execute this to look at our debug logs just to see that when we ran this, we're getting an object spit out in here. We said get our key, which is AK, Alaska, and it spit out the actual object with the ID that we need. So now, as we're looping over these values, we can specifically say, hey, give us AK, AL, Georgia, and really for the last one, which is the most important one, ooh, we're looping over these a bunch of times, give us the final value that we actually care about. Cool. So we can do something like this. Temp state dot the actual state itself, because we're sending back a value, equals our states. You know, we're looking through we're getting a state and we're looking through it and we're updating it in the end. We save that. What's the problem here? Oh, got nothing in here. So we've got one more issue to deal with this. And you know what, for right now, let me just run this. And nothing's really going to change, but you're going to see that we're not, you know, we haven't looped over any additional values. You can do like an analysis to show, hey, how much time you actually save between changing this to a changing it from a for loop to a map, but in the end that's going to take a little bit of time to get set up with those time differences. I'll probably do that offline too because I have to look up a couple things for that. But as we're seeing here, all of our values are still updated when we ran this. Let's undo here. All of our values are going to still be getting updated for this, and you know, we're going to be, it's a much more efficient way of searching for our states and you know, getting the value that we need. The only problem with this is if the state does not exist already, then this is going to be set to blank, or the map's going to return null because we don't know, it's not going to find anything. So what we have to do is kind of, you can set this up anyway, but I got to kind of set it up in either reverse, or let's just do it the easy way. If our state is equal to null, so that means that we did not find anything. We just need to create a new, set our values back again. We could do this up here, and there's going to be a whole another video on best practices and changing this whole thing around, like so to make it a little bit better. But I just wanted to kind of focus on this particular video on how we can do our searching and our updating a bit more efficiently. So let's actually delete one of our items, and we'll see, or let's change some of the values that we have in here. Let's put this back to 300 because we saw that was there, and then I said 300. Nope. A caps lock. There we go. And let's do, I don't know, random values. And then when we run our code again, Alaska. See, everything went through. There's something that we're printing out in line 23, everything over multiple times. I might have to look at that. Should only be 50 entries in here. One AK. I guess these are all 50. You know what? I've never actually looked through all of the values that come through here. I just assumed that it was just the 50 states, but we might have more than that. What's SD? South Dakota? Oh, you know what it is? Look at this. Look at this over here. That's what's happening. My scroll wheel is jumping back up, and it's making it look like there's more records than there actually is. That's why I'm freaking out on, you know, what's going on. Look at that. I think I've seen that happen before, and they had to make an update to the dev console, but I digress. That's what was freaking me out. We are still, so it's still only going to be the 50 records. Let's delete one of these as well. So we're deleting California. I'm only going to start working with states that I know the names of, so I don't look like a complete fool. And then let's run this again. Well, I'm going to assume that ran. Refresh here. California should be back. These values are now updated to whatever they were most recently. So our upsert process is working. We are updating records that exist in the system, and we are inserting records that we see in the system. So I'm taking report requests. If anybody has any interesting reports that they want to see, I'll try to look into the color coding aspect of it. But we're able to update and insert brand new records. So I still have a little bit of time left to go over this, and what I want to look at is the something I was kind of putting off is the date checker. So the date last modified, we will need to do some maybe not too bad conversions in here, but let's figure out how to get the date modified from that string value that they're passing into our code itself, so we can know when our code was updated. If we look at our object itself, I don't think we have a value for the date modified, so let's go ahead and add that in. Don't see anything on here, and this is a different than the created by and the last modified date. So these dates are the Salesforce dates that we have in here, that the Salesforce system. So the last time, basically the last modified date will be the last time the call out was made, that we asked for information and got updates, and the created date is whenever we created this, so on the 16th. If we look at the information in our message that were sent, we can see these are the actual dates and times that the information was updated from the other source. Whoever put their information in here. Maybe they manually typed it in, whatever. That's the last time it was updated in their system. So that's something that's important to us that we want to track to know when was the last time they updated their information. So we are going to add this date modified field into Salesforce. This will be a date time. We're going to have to figure out the date time because they give us the date time. And we're going to call this date modified. And we're going to next through everything. Remember to always put it on the correct layouts, match your profiles, make sure people don't have read access to your fields. But in this case, we're just having a little fun with this. So we are going to add it on there. Add it onto everything. So now we have our date modified field, and we'll start to see some of the issues and why in some of the next videos we're going to be working with a wrapper class and some more advanced like call out features. So now we need to add a new field into our call out. So to do this, we're going to need to copy this line, call it date. Do I have it copied? No, I just copied this one. Date modified, and we, an easy thing to think that we could do is to do something like this. Oops. We have the value is called date modified. Let me make sure to get the right key. So just give us the date modified value, right? Get that from our state object that we were calling. But we're already seeing an illegal assignment of date time. So maybe, I don't know, let's just try to cast this to a date time. Save that. Is our compiler going to complain? Is anything going to complain? No. But if we actually run this, let's see what happens. Invalid conversion of a string from string to date time. So that means that the Salesforce doesn't understand this value that came in. We haven't converted this. It's a string value. It's just text. We haven't converted this string value into a date time value that Salesforce can understand. So what I do in this situation, because I memorize almost nothing, is to do something like Salesforce string date time conversion. And we're probably going to start running into issues here where we need to make sure that our information is formatted correctly. It looks like there's maybe a date time. I want to bring up the documentation for Salesforce date time. So there you go. So there is an actual date time class which we may be able to use to convert the values that we need. So if we look through all of the methods, there's some like format jumps out to me and we can read what this is. But we're seeing that the return type is going to be a string value. So if we look through some more of the methods, I think there should be one that is parse. And we're kind of seeing some of the setup here with this parse, and we may be able to use it to convert string value, that's one of the parameters that it takes, into a datetime value. What we don't know is that if the format that we're using is going to be the correct way so that we can parse this correctly. And I don't actually know. Let's give it a try. And let's keep this as a string, and we will do, where'd it go? Datetime parse. Datetime parse, and then we need to close this in. So this right here is our string value itself. It's just it's the long string text that we're seeing in here. And on the outside of it, we're calling the parse function in the datetime class to say convert that string to a datetime. Gonna save that, and let's see if it runs, because invalid date time. So now we start getting into some weird stuff that we're going to need to look at, because this is expecting it in, and let me slow it down there, invalid date time. This is expecting, the reason we're getting that is that the parse method is expecting our string in a specific format. If it's not in that specific format, it's throwing an invalid for it. So now we're gonna have to figure this out on how to convert date times. This is where I generally go to the forums. Let's see if value of, saw that on there. And now I'm just reading through. We can try a couple different of these value ofs to see if they work out to convert the correct string. If I look at this and like take this and let's see what type of date time format is this. I'm just what date time format, and then let's just paste it in to see if or actually we can probably do date time formats in general, and I'm sure one is going to pop up to say what this actually is. If this wasn't in C. This is years, months. No. I want one of those standard formats, and it might be in the doc somewhere here. All right, let's just let's try it out. Let's do some value ofs. This might be GMT. Let's execute this. Well, it looks like we've got some help here. From the Discord. Huh. If we deserialize it, the string itself we're gonna have to try that out. All right, hold on. So our value of didn't work. Let's try value of GMT, and that's probably not going to work. And then we're going to end up going to what's in that, yeah, same thing. So let's give this a try. It's deserializing the JSON object or the string value into the datetime class. I don't know. Let's give it a try, whatever. So this is, we may need to put this in the curly braces. Let's try this out. This one's new to me. That's why I'm doing this. Actually, if we legal assignment of, here we go, let's cast this to a datetime. See if we get, cross our fingers, everyone. It took it. Thank you so much, OG. Let's refresh this. We got nothing. Didn't do it. Let's see what we're getting out of this whole thing. All right, I need to close out some of these. We need to get this to work, we need to test this in a vacuum. So let's bring a lot of this into the dev console, so we can retest this a little bit faster. And what I'm going to do now is just create a datetime variable called it test datetime. And we are going to start setting our values to whatever we need them to be. Then let's take this string, move this out here, right? Because that's what our example has in here. We're deserializing it to a datetime class. Yeah, this guy's took the characters right out of my text box. Let's see what we get. I forgot to debug it, but we didn't get an error. Let's see what our test date equals in the end, because supposedly that works. And that looks like it, right? Was it 15 something? So that supposedly works. Our datetime value is this. We are in AK, right? Alaska. I'm gonna have to put the state names there. Let's refresh this again. Doesn't look like there's been any updates. Oh, it's just Salesforce being slow. It tricked me. So that looked like it worked. Let's look at the last modified date, or date modified for everything. I think that got it. Yeah, sweet. That totally worked. This one's new for me. Cool. Thank you so much. I think it's OG. I'm not even gonna. I've already butchered Alaska. I'm just gonna say thanks. Type it out. So we've learned something new today with this deserialization of that timestamp. But now we know how to deal with these special cases for some of these time values. So we can add in date checked, and any, if they ever end up adding any new date values in here, we can add them in. That is going to be, I think that's all I wanted to get to today. I thought I was going to spend a little bit more time on this one. I will spend the rest of the time trying to figure out some really cool reports to do. So if you do have to jump off, we are, just to recap, we are now able to, one, update our values. It's not like it's updating every day. In the next video, we're going to try to move this away from being in the dev console where we do our actual updates, to, let me move this around, to either being on a button refresh or some type of refresh interval. So that'll be really cool. And then we're also going to move away from this very clunky way of parsing our data in our callout. I'm going to work on some more best practices when you're doing callouts, like using a wrapper class and getting rid of this really ugly creation of this object. Because one, we are creating a temp variable here in here, but then we are also doing it again. So here, I'll just cheat and kind of start setting this up already. I think the equal sign. So that does away with one useless statement. So now if we find one, it's going to have the value in it. If it does not find one, it's going to be null, and we're going to create one for it. So that's just one really quick optimization that we've done there. We're not instantiating the object twice for no reason, or overriding the reference for no reason. So now, just to round things out, I'm going to work on some actual reports that I think I would want to know, some information that I would want to know. So I was bucketing before. The real problem with reports is that you have to have some sort of grouping to do any bit of charting. So let's do, I don't know. Can we do like a funnel? Can we do, let's see what the funnel looks like. These are the different sizes for each. Let's do a donut. Combine smaller values into other. I think that's what was throwing me off. This one looks kind of cool. So it's a donut to say the total, what are we on, total test results? Oh, positives are grouped value already. Let's take that out. So let's leave this. But anyway, so I'm going to continue working on these. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have some suggestions or you want to help me out, like I've gotten some help out in the Discord already, make sure to join the SFXD Discord. It's where I'll post if I'm going live, and you can also follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. I don't think I post on LinkedIn if I'm going to be working on this or not. Other than that, remember, I believe in you. Follow along with this project, learn some code, learn some new things, and it's really fun. So I'm going to keep this grouping. I'm going to continue to work, but from this point on, it's just going to be figuring out some cool reporting to do with this information. So you can hang out if you want to. So I've grouped by this. The names, so we can at least have some type of interesting grouping going on. And then let's add in, I think positive was moved out, so where's positive? If I could spell, I would have positive. Let's move our positive up. Because I don't know if I particularly care about total the total people tested. I think it is a good number to have, but I want to know like who's positive, right? There's 4 million people are supposedly positive have tested positive in the United States for coronavirus. So that's something interesting to me. I will save this because it's when I just update it, I was probably looking at something else. Yeah, that 4 million seemed like a really high number. Anyways. Yeah, that's total tested. Got it. So yeah, this donut seems a lot better than what we had before. And then if we go back onto our home screen, our chart is updated, so that is really great. What else do I want to see on here? Let's look at some other cool charts. The funnel, I don't know if it makes that much sense. Kind of does. It's just another way of visualizing it. Think of some other visualizations. If we do a dashboard, I can probably have the total number of recoveries and the total numbers period. So let's do that. Let's do a dashboard because you can't have, I don't think, individual numbers on reports. So let's get a COVID dashboard going. I don't need to write dashboard at the end of it because it's already a COVID dashboard. It's already a dashboard, so I don't need to say that it's a COVID dashboard. Cool. Select this folder. Let's add from here. I think, can we add from our report chart? I don't remember if we can just put the value in from our report chart. Select this. There it is. I just missed the filter. And then let's add some big numbers on here. Yeah, there we go. Total tested. Let's throw that on there. And then more big numbers. We want to know total recovered. That's a good number. And there was one more that I was just thinking of. Maybe just to add the actual chart itself so we can see some numbers on here. And what I need to do is look at some other COVID, actual COVID reports and charts to get an idea, but whatever, we're just having fun. Let's see what else we got here. This is probably the name. Let's move the name up. Sort this by this. Display units, we'll do shortened. Show totals. No, I don't think I want to see totals. Actually, yeah, I do want to see totals. Do some conditional highlighting. Okay, and now let's take up some real estate. Cool. All right, well, let's not go over. There we go. And then let's make this bigger. Or do I just need to make this bigger? I'll probably leave it the same actually because the donut's looking pretty small. Okay, cool. Well, now I need one more because they're uneven. That's gonna want to stick. Oops. Sweet. Some blank space in here. This is probably one too many. 1, 2, 3. Oh man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's move this over 1, 2. Big numbers. This, we need to put a label on this because we don't know what it is right now. No, not here. Here. Custom label title. Total test results. Update that, and then for this one we will do something like what is this? Total recovered. There we go. Let's save this dashboard. Get done, and then let's add it to our home. What we can also do, since we're going to be kind of working around with reports, personalizer navbar, add items. Let's add reports and dashboards in so that we don't have to search for them every time. Cool. Now if we go to home, we're going to need to edit our home page and put our dashboard in. And I think we'll end it there for today. Sweet. So now that's looking a lot better. We have our default information here. Oh, we need to sort that. I still want to know the top positive people. But anyways, we have some really good information here, some big dashboards that are looking really nice. In the next video, we're probably going to be adding a couple buttons to refresh the data from Salesforce so we don't have to go to the developer console anymore. And then work on some more best practices, getting away from these individual state or individual value selections here. And we will move towards a more streamlined call out approach using a wrapper class and maybe even setting up the schedules. So we're going to be breaking this up a little bit more. This, you know, when I look at this code, it can be a lot more compartmentalized for reusability in certain situations, especially when we're starting with the searching here. So there's definitely a lot of work that we can do for this. Thank you all so much for watching again and sticking through this report building section. I'm sorry I was struggling through it to think of some good reports before. I'll come more prepared next time, but as always, I believe in you.